This invites atonement automatically, because atonement is the one need which in this world is universal. To perceive yourself this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. Now, that doesn't mean it's the only way you can experience happiness in this god-awful place called the world. It means that anywhere at any time, the only way you can experience happiness is when you're sending out messengers of love. When you're sending out messengers that recognize equality. When you're sending out messengers that recognize God there. You see? That's the only way you're going to be able to experience happiness in the world. That's the only way you're going to be able to experience happiness in the kingdom of heaven, which is what you have been looking at and calling, derogatorily, the world. To perceive yourself this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. That is, because it is the acknowledgement that you are not in this world, for the world is unhappy. In other words, it's an acknowledgement that you're not in the definition that you've all created, which was based upon an unconsciousness of its source, because you were choosing to be unconscious of your source. And both sources are one, God. You see, as I said, when you say to your brothers, I am not going to react to your threats of violence or harm to me if I disobey the mutually agreed upon definitions that we've all signed in imaginary blood and fellowship and for eternity. I am not going to abide by these because this almost sensory awareness deep within me of what I divinely am is making me aware that threat itself, that vulnerability itself, which you are threatening me with, is part and parcel of the fundamental premise we've based our definitions upon, which is that this existence has nothing to do with God, that it just happened in the middle of something by chance, and there's nothing natural about it, and there's nothing about us that is fundamentally unified. We're a haphazard lot who, through some amazing capacity we came upon, have been able, in spite of our alienness to each other, to come to mutual agreements that have allowed us to experience harmony and cooperation. The fundamental premise that all of this is a fluke and unnatural, and that therefore existence is nothing more than a reduced chance of harm coming to us in what is a basically hostile existence. This is not true. And I am not going to join in affirming or reaffirming it, because the light that is illuminating me from within says that the hostility is a result. The vulnerability is a result of believing a fundamental lie and basing everything upon it. And your invitation to me to not abandon these mutually agreed upon definitions, and your threat to violate me if I do, are as false as every other assumption that has been built upon the fundamental lie. And therefore, I will persist in inviting in the light and yielding to the light and leaning into it so that it might support me rather than our well-established, mutually agreed upon definitions. So again, to perceive yourself this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. That is because it is the acknowledgement that you are not in this world, for the world is unhappy. And it's an acknowledgement that you're not in this world because this world is one that has been made up out of a mind unconscious of what it is, and unconscious of its source, and unconscious of what it's using in order to make up its imaginative world of definitions. And this Christ that you are has never been in this world that you're suffering from, and isn't right now. You know what? It's just a damn good projector. Or shall I say a divinely good projector? Continuing, how else can you find joy in a joyless place except by realizing that you are not there? You cannot be anywhere that God did not put you, and God created you as part of Him. That is both where you are and what you are. It is completely unalterable. If it's completely unalterable, it hasn't been altered. And anything less than that that you seem to be experiencing isn't what is happening. Or let us say it's not all that is happening. None of you are having any totally original false experiences. You're all having distorted experiences of something real. Because the only thing in front of you to distort or alter is God, infinitely being God, called creation. So everything that you're seeing with a little twist or bias applied to it so that you think that it's your creation, or you think it's what you have decided it is, hasn't stopped being what it divinely is. And that's why I say, look at the flowers, look at the table, look at the trees, look at your brother with innocent eyes and curiosity, asking God or the Holy Spirit, what is the truth here? What's the capital M meaning of this which has to be some aspect of creation, even though I have conditioned myself to see it with such a bias applied to it that it doesn't look like it has anything to do with God at all. What is the truth here? You see? Again, you cannot be anywhere that God did not put you, and God created you as part of Him. That is both where you are and what you are. It is completely unalterable. It is total inclusion. You cannot change it now or ever. And I will add, and therefore, you never have. Therefore, what you believe something to be, if it's not what God is being, you never succeeded in creating it. You never succeeded in making it real. But you have succeeded in fooling yourself enough to be able to ignore what God is being there in preference to the hit you get, the ego hit you get, at being able to have an experience, or thinking that you're being able to have an experience that God did not create. And again, it's a bunch of crap. Another way of saying it is, it's insanity. How is the fearful, horrible world that an insane one sees corrected? By his perception changing. Because the world never became what he saw. Atonement is you coming back into your right mind. And you coming back into your right mind is a result of paying attention to the fire in the middle of you that could never be put out, the altar, the light, that is the Holy Spirit, that is nothing more than your right mind, that didn't go anywhere, and inviting it in, even though it seems as though you might end up shifting allegiance from who you know you are to something that only God knows what it is. It's certainly not you, and yet it is you. And as you invite it in and embrace it, you are embracing your right mind. You are embracing your self. And the experience does not constitute a loss of identity. It constitutes a new, expanded, all-inclusive, non-exclusive, conscious experience of being. And how do you make this begin to happen? You begin to make it happen. You begin to cause the movement to occur of this shift by deciding to abandon your best definition of your brother and sister, to abandon your best definition, and daring to say, I wish to have this one be the object of my affection. Father, help me see this one as he is or she is. Help me to see this plant or this tree as it is, so that I might acknowledge it in your sight or with your sight, from your viewpoint. Why? So that you begin to send out messengers of love. Sending out messengers of the acknowledgement of the truth about that one or that thing. Why? So that you engage in the one act that breaks your isolation, that undoes your bill of divorcement. Again, it is total inclusion. You cannot change it now or ever. It is forever true. It is not a belief, but a fact. You see, you don't want just better beliefs. You want the truth. You want the facts. Continuing, anything that God created is as true as He is. Its truth lies only in its perfect inclusion in Him, who alone is perfect. To deny this in any way is to deny yourself and Him, since it is impossible to accept one without the other. And there it is. When you denied the Father, when you got this imaginary bill of divorcement, you not only lost the Father, apparently, you lost your identity. Again, to deny this in any way is to deny yourself and Him, since it is impossible to accept one without the other. The perfect equality of the Holy Spirit's perception is the counterpart of the perfect equality of God's knowing. The ego's perception has no counterpart in God. But the Holy Spirit remains the bridge between perception and knowledge. By enabling you to use perception in a way that parallels knowledge, you will ultimately meet it and know it. The ego would prefer to believe that this meeting is impossible, yet it is your perception which the Holy Spirit guides. Again, the ego would prefer to believe that this meeting is impossible, yet it is your perception which the Holy Spirit guides. You might remember that the human eye perceives parallel lines as if they meet in the distance, which is the same as in the future, if time and space are one. If time and space are one dimension. Your will, I'm going to back up. That's me, Paul, saying this. You might remember that the human eye perceives parallel lines as if they meet in the distance, which is the same as in the future if time and space are one dimension. Your perception will end where it began. Everything meets in God, because everything was created by Him and in Him. Do you realize that you couldn't possibly seem to have one false idea. You couldn't seem to have one small belief. You couldn't possibly have the most minute misunderstanding if it weren't for the fact that God exists and you're the Christ. I see some shaking their heads. The only way you can seem to have an illusion is if there's truth. And the only way you can seem to yourselves to be humans having false perceptions is because you are the Christ. There couldn't be a part, there couldn't be a partiality if there weren't a wholeness. And if you all want to take the conscious experience of being, which is without limit, and you want to narrow it down to a few dozen things, we'll say, that you want to occupy your mind with, and you focus your attention on those 10 or 12 things, so that you're no longer paying attention with focus on the rest, you can seem to create for yourself an illusory sensation of existence. That sensation being one of a mind attentive to 10 or 12 things only, and also a mind which no longer knows what it is. But remember that this is the Christ focusing its attention consciously on purpose in a manner which causes this Christ to forget who it is without ceasing to be what it is. Is that clear? So, the atonement, you coming back into your right mind, is not a matter of growth, of some puny little pissant mortal into a divine one. And there's not a great distance that needs to be traversed. It requires one thing: the momentary realization that you're not here, you're not in the world, you're not in your definition, that you are the eternal, infinite one, that God is being right now, using its capacities to create this highly focused and limited awareness of all that is. You believe that you are in the middle of that finite focus, but you aren't. You're still the infinite Christ. You're still the presence of God, being the wholeness of mind that God is right where you are. So I will keep saying this in many different ways until the light bulb goes on and you say, "Oh, yeah." And you let go of the tininess. You let go of the focus of your attention. And the commitment you bring to confirming the tininess and maintaining it in its tininess. And your insistence upon keeping your eyes closed as the light comes, Here come the judge, here come the judge, here come the light. Close your eyes, everyone. Here comes the judge. Oh, here come the judgment. Here come the light. Oh, here come the judgment. The light will uncover my insanity. No, the light will uncover your sanity. The light will exonerate you by showing you that nothing that you thought you did in opposition to God by saying, but Father, I'd rather do it my way, that none of it ever happened as a fact. And therefore, there is nothing for you to be held accountable for, and there is no debt for you to pay. Because you can't be punished for what you never did. Continuing, God created his sons by extending his thoughts and retaining the extensions of his thought in his mind. You see, God did not extend his thoughts and project them outside his mind. That's what the ego does. God extended his thoughts and retained the extensions of his thought in his mind. All his thoughts, which means every single one of you and every leaf, every petal, every tree, everything, are thus perfectly united within themselves and with each other, because they were created neither partially nor in part. The Holy Spirit enables you to perceive this wholeness now. Not off in the distant future, not after there's been tremendous soul growth, but right now, right here, because here and now are the kingdom of heaven. Here and now are reality. Here and now is God being everything. And what it is in God's truth is what the Christ that you are at this very moment is meant to be experiencing and acknowledging and loving and conscious of, so that you send out the messengers of love. You send out the messengers of the acknowledgement of what is true. The acknowledgement of God. It's glorifying God, as we've talked about. Now, continuing, you can no more pray for yourselves alone than you can find joy for yourself alone. Likewise, you can no more condemn yourselves alone than you can find joy for yourself alone. Everything you do, you don't do alone. And while you're imagining that you're separate, everything you do is a projection. You project your affection to that alien over there who happens to be pretty cute. You see what I mean? Or you project your judgment out there. Whatever you do to yourself, you do to everyone else. And you project it to that other one out there who is outside of your mind, which means you are not recognizing yourself in them.